Great. Whoops. So I see Gail's on because that's the area code 207. And I just want you to know that she's going to be on the telephone and not on the video. So if you want to send her a note or anything, I'm not sure how you do that, but I'm sure you know how to do it. I think she's
The 207. Okay, I see it.
yeah, that's her 207-400. So yeah, but I don't any communication that you wish to have, I'm sure there's some little raise your hand thingy or something that you can send notes to each other. Isn't there?
Okay, just like in high school.
Yeah.
Oh. I'm sorry. I spent so much time in detention.
No, I remember those days a long time ago.
I don't know if I'll ever forget.
This
well,
is Gail. All you need to do is ask me and I will answer any questions you have.
oh, goody.
Okay, great.
I can mute and unmute.
Great.
Okay, great. Okay, I think we're ready to go. I'd like to welcome participants to the virtual planning board meeting of September 13th. And I'd like this time to take a call to order. Ms. Creighton,
Here.
Ms. Delicio,
Here.
Ms. Foley,
Here.
Mr. Gilbert,
Hi,
hi, Mr. Olney,
I'm here.
and the board would like to welcome Ms. Laura Tenney. Are you
Welcome.
here, Laura? Are you here, Laura? Or you're muted.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay. It's like we have a quorum tonight. I'd like to remind all board members, guests, to be asked to be recognized by the chair if they wish to speak. This meeting is being recorded. First item on our agenda tonight is acknowledgement of receipt of correspondence. Well, Helene, actually, I'd like to welcome Gail Hunter to the meeting. She's our new minutes and administrative assistant. Welcome, Gail.
Thank you.
And do we have any receipt of correspondence, Helene or Gail?
I have to say, I don't have access to the
Okay.
correspondence, if any had come in. I think certain correspondence came in related to different applications, but I don't have that access anymore, so I don't know, but I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Ron, wasn't there a letter from about the FEMA flood maps or
Good, absolutely, firm maps, FIRM.
Okay, so let's acknowledge the receipt of the FEMA maps.
It's good.
They were placed in our meeting packets. Okay, we have a full agenda. At this time, I'd like to allow any public comments on items not on the agenda with a very limited time, as we have a very full agenda tonight. Anybody from the public wish to speak? Okay, thank you. I'd like to, since Helene has informed me that the 10 Forest Lane and the Eagle Head A&R are not scheduled till 7 o'clock, I'd like to take some items out of order. And I'll start with
Minutes.
let's see, something, okay, let's start with the minutes. Minutes were posted. I believe we had 2 comments from Ms. Foley. Has anyone else have any comments on the minutes? Did we receive any, Helene?
Just from Mary, and thank you very much, Mary. I always appreciate your keen eye.
This is Sarah. I'll move to approve with amendments, but were they substantive or,
No, I had one misspelling and an additional word, it.
so move to approve as amended?
Is there a second?
Second,
Roll
Who's
call,
that?
Ms. Creighton.
Christine.
Christina.
And this was Sarah that moved it. Sarah Creighton moved, just
Oh.
for Gail benefit.
Yeah, you
Okay,
guys,
So I,
Ms. Creighton is aye. Ms. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert,
Yes.
Roney,
I'm going to abstain because I didn't attend the meeting.
understood. Ms. Tenney, you did not attend.
Abstain, I
either.
did not attend the meeting.
And chair votes yes. Okay,
I think
thank
Ms.
you.
Gilbert did not attend the meeting either.
Ah. Right, correct. So we have 4 yes and 3 abstentions. Okay, I'd like to tackle something that I think would take a short period of time, and I think at about a month ago, I think Mr. Gilbert had questions on the past blasting article at town meeting. That was described in Article 13. So Gary, you questioned whether the planning board needs to take any action on that and believed we did not. So Greg is here to answer any of your questions if you had any.
Ron?
Yes.
Oh, I just realized my name is, got to change my name here. I thought it really wasn't something that we're experts on, that we shouldn't be adjudicating on, but apparently there's plenty of things we adjudicate on that require outside expertise. And I guess it's, from what I'm told, it's standard and normal that planning boards do make rulings related to blasting. So I was sort of set straight on that. And it's already mentioned, I guess. Do you know if it's in the general bylaws or in the zoning bylaws?
It was approved as part of the zoning bylaw.
But our existing references to blasting are in a site plan review portion, or are they in something in the general bylaws?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. It is referenced in the general bylaw. My mistake.
Okay, that's where it stands, so maybe that's where it stays, right? Or they're suggesting an actual zoning bylaw.
I don't have the article in front of me right now. I have to double check the wording.
Ron, may I?
Because it would be, if it's only mentioned in the general bylaws, it's best to keep it there. And we could perhaps give feedback to the citizens group that are I guess, who proposed it. They probably may not mind. The good thing about general bylaws is you can assess fines more easily.
It's Article 12, earth removal of the general bylaw.
And the warrant article, Article 13, was to amend Article 12 of the general bylaws.
It specifically called for guidance that the planning board develops. So that's where the planning board role comes into play.
Do you have any guidance to guide us, to guide them?
My guidance would be to work closely with the fire chief and to have his guidance on developing your guidance. I think that's probably the most prudent way to proceed.
Well, like any law, like this, if it passes, it would be really good to write in there some sort of, I don't want to overuse the word, but guidance. If the planning board has to review it, it's really helpful to have text in there to to tell them what they should be looking at, what things they should be regulating regarding it. So maybe we need some input from the fire chief.
Right, I think that's a good place to start.
My thought was to have a couple of members and the fire chief get together and then bring something back to the board for review. Any thoughts on moving in that direction?
I would just
Rather
ask,
than the whole board?
ask him to submit his thoughts in writing if he could. That would be a good place to start.
Ron, this is Sarah. It seems that this is something that we just need to assign it to somebody to contact the fire chief, get his input and put it in a format that is appropriate in regulations, and come back to us at the next meeting or thereafter. I think looking for the minutes in the prior meeting, I thought Mary had said she was interested in doing this.
Hi, this is Mary. I do not believe I did.
Is anyone on the board interested in meeting with the fire chief and coming up with language? If not, I will take it.
Ron, can I just make a comment? This is Christine.
Yes,
Or a
Christina.
question. So the fire chief did, in my understanding, wrote something on this, and he was basically of the mindset that what we had was sufficient. So I'm just curious what exactly we're looking from the fire chief at this point, any different than he had already given us prior to town meeting.
I think, excuse me, Ron, if I might, I think that there was an amendment to the general bylaws that said any commercial or not, I'm looking at the article, I don't have the motion, but any commercial or non-residential structure containing more than 100,000 square feet, or any individual structure containing more than 20 housing units, that certain will be monitored by the fire department and applicable safety codes. And so if there are regulations that need to be written in order to enact that, and that's what we write.
Okay.
I don't know, Greg, do we need additional words other than this, what is in the amended bylaw?
So
There was,
go ahead, Ron.
there was some issue with the chemicals being used in the blasting material. I thought you were looking for guidance on that, just to protect the water supply. I thought someone at town meeting spoke with that.
I'm sorry, Ron, I think they were considering PFASs. Just for clarity.
Isn't it-
I think that was Michael Carvalho that spoke up about PFASs.
Would it be helpful, Greg, is this appropriate to just simply ask town council to suggest what modification to our bylaw language would incorporate the desires of this petition that was passed at town meeting? Maybe that's a good start, because they could wordsmith this and then we have something to look at in writing.
Well, I think, to back up, the chief felt that state regulations were sufficient and that this bylaw wasn't necessary, but now that the bylaw has passed, I think that he would be a good source of information that you could use his expertise and what current state regulations have. You can reference those or replicate them, and you can go a few steps beyond, for example, banning certain blasting chemicals that are more harmful in terms of their lasting impact on the environment versus others. So I think it could be a two-step approach. You could, I would start with the chief, and we can simultaneously seek town council's suggestions as to how it might be formatted and crafted.
Sounds like that's the quickest way to get to the results.
The article, the motion, I believe, did say that provided that it conforms, that this blasting conforms to guidelines promulgated by the board for the safe and effective use of blasting. And I believe the issue is that we are the special permit board for. So that's why we're involved. right?
Right. And then state law says that, whatever regulations you promulgate for, or guidance that you promulgate for blasting has to be approved by the fire marshal. So it does get a state review.
Ron, this is Chris.
Go ahead, Mr. Omen.
I think I would like to just push this along and suggest that your idea is the best one, that member of the planning board sit down with the fire chief and come up with a set of draft regulations that we can then look at and either approve or deny, whatever. But I think we should just get going and do it.
Ron, I can step up and meet with the fire chief.
Great. Okay, that was you, Christina, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That'd be great, and we'll move ahead. Thank you. We've got 15 minutes. Greg, while you're still here, I wanted to talk a little bit about this planning board retreat. I believe at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, they authorized for town boards to attend a session on procedures, and so I was wondering if you could just explain to the board how this was happening, and who was involved, and what the Board of Selectmen decided.
Sure, thank you, Ron. So back in late winter, early spring, Sylvia Vriesendorf and Susan Beckman approached me and a couple of board members, offering on a pro bono basis to assist with committees and boards across the town, and to help to facilitate board discussions and to see if there are ways to working with the boards to improve how the committee meetings take place, and the deliberative process, and how perhaps working with the boards to come up with strategies to be as effective and productive as possible. And so what they are proposing, and what the selectmen endorsed at their last meeting, was a process where Sylvia, mostly Sylvia, with some guidance from Susan, but mostly Sylvia, would interview board members to get a sense of what you think the strengths and some of the weaknesses of current board operations are. And then once compiling those responses and perhaps finding some common threads and themes that emerge, then have a workshop during a retreat type setting or workshop setting to review what people had expressed, and see if there are some measures that people have consensus around to move forward with in terms of how a particular board or committee functions. So that is what has been offered, and the selectmen found that as a very positive offer to take advantage of, and would like to work with as many boards and committees as possible, but not wanting to abuse the time that both Sylvia and Susan have offered. So we take it sort of one board at a time, and work through a month or two long process of, like I say, doing interviews and setting up a workshop setting to review the responses, and to see if there's some consensus as to some procedures and processes that could everyone agree to, as a way to move forward in the most effective and productive way possible. So both Sylvia and Susan have a pretty extensive experience with board dynamics and working with groups of people towards their goals. Sylvia has quite an extensive international consulting business that she has been working with for years, working all across the globe, really, over 40 years of work here. Similarly, Susan has done a lot of leadership workshops, executive training, executive coaching, and again, working with different organizations and different committees. So both bring some good expertise to the table, but it really is a process scene that is being driven by the committee members themselves in terms of the issues that you identify and suggestions that you have for moving forward. So again, I see it as a very positive step for us to take advantage of. I look forward to some of the results that they come up with, along with you as board and committee members. As I say, this is something that we would love to do with as many boards and committees in town as possible, without burning Sylvia and Susan out as we go forward with this. So I'm happy to answer more questions about that and hear your thoughts.
Comments or questions from the board?
Ron,
So-
this is,
Go ahead.
my only comment would be that I think we should still plan on a planning board retreat separate to this, that actually establishes our goals for the year and what we want to accomplish. They seem like two different things to try to do at the same time.
So, okay, I understood. The retreat that we had scheduled for September 22nd, I was waiting for the Board of Selectmen to vote on this and move this forward. And it didn't happen until last week. So in contact with Sylvia, she does not feel she has enough time to meet with us by the 22nd. So with that in mind, I was going to ask the board about moving the retreat forward, and with all these upcoming meetings and other things on our plate, I was thinking of pushing the retreat after fall town meeting, sometime after the 15th of November. That would give Sylvia plenty of time to do her question and information gathering, and would take an extra meeting off of our plates during this critical time when we're trying to scramble to get stuff on town warrants. So any thoughts on postponing the retreat?
Ron, it's Chris. I think Mary's got onto something. I think maybe it'd be a good idea to still meet on the 22nd and try to establish some goals for the year. And you know, I found the last time we had a retreat, it was very helpful in terms of figuring out where we're all coming from and not having a strict agenda and, you know, work product to think about. It made it a much more, I thought, productive session. So I would vote to keep it going, but just schedule it on the 22nd. Not make it a big long thing, but just a way to try to get, you know, maybe part of the recodification complaint might give us a little bit of a head start on getting those warrants put together.
Personally, I will be out of town on the 22nd, but.
Well, then I change it. I'll change my idea.
Well, we can move it. I mean, you can have it without me, or we can move it, you know, a little further down the road. But Christine, you have your hand up.
Oh, let's see, am I muted? No, I'm not muted. So I agree. I do think we need to keep the things separate. I don't want to push, you know, what we're going to focus on until November. That's almost, you know, halfway through this one year. This should, in my opinion, be an annual, you know, end of summer kickoff meeting to our year. I don't think it should be postponed. And I think I agree with Chris that we could maybe hone in on some of the recodification and concentrate on things that we actually are going to be successful in and not spinning our wheels. Just pick a few things and get them done.
Any other comments from the board? What I can do is set up for 2 retreats, one with Sylvia towards the end of the year, and I would like to maybe, if acceptable to the board, set up another doodle poll for a time in October?
That sounds fine.
Would that be acceptable?
That's
Yeah.
good with me.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, I think I have consensus on that. Anyone opposed? All right, I'll set up a doodle poll on that. Thanks, Greg.
Ron, is it possible just maybe to rename those, not two retreats, maybe? I don't know, just call them something different.
You could call one a, priority goal setting workshop and another sort of committee process review.
Perfect.
The idea was on both, on the retreat or the goal setting, was to meet in person also. So hopefully that would be, we can find a appropriate venue.
Do we have the
Um,
capability to do this hybridly?
That's a
We're
good
still-
question. Greg, can we meet in person now, or do we need to?
We don't have the hybrid capability yet. A lot of the equipment has been back ordered, unfortunately. So it's been pushed back. I don't have a time certain yet, but we are looking at some alternative interim measures to get the hybrid meetings going without the full recording and broadcasting capability.
Can we do it just in person? Do we have to have the Zoom link? If it's a public meeting, people who want to come, could come. We could do it in some sort of hybrid outdoors location of, Tux Point or something in the Chowder House where there's a lot of air coming through and people we can all put on warm coats. It just seems to me, I don't even know what Mary and Christine look like right now. So I would really like to do it in person. I really don't. I don't know. We've not met in person. So it would be great to, and I think Laura may be in the same boat. So I think it would really be great to meet in person. And I think you get a better discussion about goals, and certainly it has to be a public meeting, but the question is, does it have to be Zoom capable? Is that really a requirement now?
So it's not a requirement, it's a strong preference, but for something like a workshop setting where it's really more focused on internal discussion rather than taking public comment, then something like the Tux Chowder House is fine. The window is is closing in terms of the weather, but we still have another month or so that is certainly possible. So if you want to target an early to mid-October session out there, that's doable.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So Greg, would we want to have a laptop at the end of the table? If, let's say, 2 or 3 of us wanted to get together and work on writing something with actual paper in front of us. It's a rare thing these days, but could we just open a laptop, set up, have a Zoom? Is that the appropriate thing to do at the Chowder House, or just announce it as a meeting, working meeting?
Well, I'm not exactly sure what you're asking, Gary. You mean,
Do you need to have, should we have a laptop there with Zoom so people could Zoom in and observe, listen?
oh, just with one laptop? I don't know if you're going to capture everybody's voice very well on that. That's the problem.
So I think,
don't think-
I'm sorry, I think we're talking about 2 different things. One is a working session of the full board. And then Gary and I were talking about a working session on these articles where we have a posted meeting, but work, this is a little bit later in the meeting, but where we work on the articles, a working session to try to hammer them out. And it's a posted meeting, but does that working session need to have Zoom for every working group that meets?
So you're talking about a working group. It's not the full board. It's just a couple of folks in a work, subcommittee session.
I think we're talking about 2 things. One is this retreat, and the other is if 3 people want to work on the blasting regulations or the articles for town meeting or any other thing. and we post a meeting, does it need to have Zoom?
No, it doesn't have to have the Zoom component
Great, thank you.
for those subgroups.
Okay, I think we're good. I got two workshop meetings with the full board, hopefully in person, one in October and one after fall town meeting with Sylvia and company. Okay, I see it's 7 o'clock, so we can go back to the 2 agenda items that were not scheduled till 7. And the first one would be the 10 Forest Lane driveway curb cut with Mr. Collins. 3 of us went out to the curb cut. I think it was now 2 weeks ago. Laura, Sarah, and myself. We met with the applicant. We reviewed his planned driveway curb cut. I also asked Chuck Dam, DPW, to go out and take a look, see if he had any issues. His answer is in your packets. I'm hoping all the other board members got to go out there, and I was wondering if there's any questions or comments or a motion.
I move that we approve the curb cut as presented.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Any discussion? Okay, motion has been made and approved. I'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Creighton,
Yay.
Ms. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert,
Yes.
Mr. Olney,
Yes.
and Ms. Tenney.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay, the next item is 9/11 Eaglehead, an A&R by Mr. Bradley. And I believe he has a representative here, or Mr. Bradley, can you describe what you're trying to do to us?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Robert McCann. I'm here representing the Bradleys, and I can describe to the board. I submitted a narrative with some plans. I'm not sure if all the planning board members got that today or not. I can, if it would be easier, I can screen share and go through that with the board members.
Hey, let me. It's McCann, right?
Yes.
Hold on.
Frank Bradley is on too also.
Okay, you have permission to share your screen.
Can you see the plan which I've got up now?
Yes.
Okay. The properties in question are 9, if you can see my cursor, 9 Eaglehead Road and 11 Eaglehead Road. They both have existing single-family dwellings located on them. These lots were created in 1954, and at the time, 9 Eaglehead Road had slightly in excess of 90,000 square feet. 11 Eaglehead Road had slightly in excess of 88,000 square feet. In 1956, a piece of land of 2,900 square feet was added to 11 Eaglehead Road, making both lots at that time having in excess of 90,000 square feet. Since 1956, nothing has changed. The current configuration of the lots, see on the left-hand side is 9 Eaglehead Road. That was owned by John and Jane Bradley. They transferred it into the Jane Bradley Principal Residence Trust. Jane passed away and John recently passed away less than a year ago. That's currently now owned by 3 of the children, Frank and his sister Juliet and his brother Ralph. 11 is owned by Frank and his wife Adrian. And if you look at the plan, and this is the one that was submitted as the A&R, And I have to say, it's a little convoluted because there's so much information on it. But what I did is I drew in red the existing property line between the two properties that has existed since 1956. This is the single-family dwelling on 9 Eaglehead Road, and this is Frank and Adrian's house on 11 Eaglehead Road. The proposal is to change the lot line. I'm going to go back to the 1954 plan. You'll see that there was a lot line that came right down a common drive, and that common drive was shared between 9 and 11. With the passing of both John and Jane, the family is selling 9, and Frank and Adrian would like to have their own separate driveway and have the whoever buys 9 Eaglehead Road have their own entrance instead of using a common driveway. So the proposal is to move the lot line to where the blue is. And in order to do that, what they've done is they have increased, this is a pork chop lot, they have increased the frontage on 11 from 18 feet to 36 feet. So it's becoming more non-conforming as a result of that increase. Number 9 Eaglehead Road is fully conforming both now and after the lot line change. The proposal, in a little bit more detail, is to create 2 non-buildable lots, the green lot being called parcel 10D. And that parcel, if you look at the notes, it says parcel 10D is to be combined with the remaining portion of C. So the green, which is 10D, is going this way. The red, which is 10E, is being combined with number 9 Eaglehead Road to form, this will become part of one lot, and the green will become part of one lot for Frank and Adrian's property. You'll note that the new property line, which I pointed out before, goes directly along the driveway so that the driveway will now be completely on 11 Eaglehead Road. It is anticipated that whoever buys 9 Eaglehead Road will have to come before the board for a curb cut for a new driveway up in here. The only other thing that I would point out to the board is there has been an existing leaching field servicing 9, which was located on 11, and there was an easement for that. That's being abandoned, and the property at 9 has been perked. There will be a new septic system on number 9 Eaglehead Road, moving it back away from the ocean and fully within the boundaries of 9. So the sole purpose of this is to be able to exchange equal portions of land. Each of these non-buildable lots have 2,307 square feet, so there's no change in square footage to each lot. Both lots remain in excess of the 90,000 square foot minimum lot area. Number 9 has full frontage and meets the frontage requirements. Number 11 is gaining more frontage, so it's becoming less non-conforming up on the street. And that's the presentation to the board, basically requesting permission to be able to change lot lines to get the driveway, excuse me, for number 11 wholly on number 11's lot.
What's the distance, the edge of the property line to the edge of the driveway?
To the edge of the driveway, the property line would come right along the edge of the existing driveway up in here. And then, of course, it goes in down here. The driveway is...
Didn't we, do we have a 5-foot barrier there? I thought we require that.
No,
I'm
you
not
don't.
sure.
Ron, can I ask him a few questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can we back up a little bit? I don't know if there's an attorney in the room, or do you remember, Ron? Maybe someone remembers, Helene might. When did the town adopt the zoning regs? And is this there was an A&R granted previously, is a question?
These were both formed in the early 1950s. And John and Jane Bradley had their house on number 9, and number 11 was vacant at the time. Frank and Adrian built their house. Frank's going to probably have to chime in on the year. At that time, I met with the building inspector. He reviewed the plans. He determined that 9 was a conforming lot and 11 was a pre-existing non-conforming lot that qualified for construction for the single-family dwelling that Frank and Adrian built.
So that was,
Mr. Chairman, that was in 2000, the year 2000, or 1999.
excuse me, you have to identify yourself if you're gonna.
This is
Yeah.
Frank Bradley, sorry, the owner of,
Okay.
owner of number 11 and the part owner of number 9.
Okay, I'm just trying to establish, these were legally created lots. The town allowed the non-conforming lot to exist.
Yes, back in 1954. That is correct.
This is a really confusing application for an A&R, and it's largely, I think, the planning board's fault. We should provide a little more direction so that we know the narrative and we know how to interpret what we're looking at. Because a classic situation is the lots may have defects. They may not have enough frontage or enough area, but there's 2 buildings on them that have predated zoning. So we have to allow the subdivision of the land. We have to endorse a plan if the lots are separated into 2 lots. In this situation, the town already endorsed the plan and allowed the second lot to exist and allowed the building to be built. So all you're really doing, I was trying to get that clear because there's a lot of stuff on these plans. And they're very confusing when you look at portions of A, B, and C, and portion B, portion C, and parcel 10D, et cetera. I've seen Hancock Associates produce better plans. But again, I think it's partly our fault. There should be a label here. If we endorse the plan, it would be nice to have a printed record of how we made that decision. So a pre-existing home or something to label number 9. I can't tell on this plan who owns number 9. There's property owners written on here, but I don't know who owns which property. And if it was pre-existing, well, number 11 was built more recently, legally, but 9 was built apparently a long time ago. It'd be nice to have labeled them. But in the end, you have 2 legal lots. And all you're doing is a lot line adjustment from what I can see.
That is correct. I think
Making the
I
front a little less non-conforming, which is good. And you're having the net square footage area of the both lots approximately the same. You have every right to not do that. So as long as you don't make one lot non-conforming. So there's nothing here for us to not endorse, it seems to me. But I think the board should provide better direction next time for future submissions.
I agree, and I apologize to the board. There is, and if you look at what I submitted earlier, whoops, if I can manage to do this. I submitted a table showing the district and the frontage and the square footages of both properties, both existing and proposed. And I gave a detailed history of the ownership and the construction and the time that these were created. I do believe that that what you've said is correct, that all we are really doing is taking 2 legally existing lots and moving a lot line between the 2 of them by creating these 2 non-buildable lots and requiring that they be combined with the adjacent lots and be one in the future.
Well, actually, I think one lot is buildable. And the other one could probably be expanded with special permit or perhaps a variance, but
Correct.
yeah, it would be good if that little, I didn't see that table anywhere in my packet. Maybe I missed it, but a table like that would be great to put on the plan, but we never asked you for it. So it's not really your fault. But I know Hancock's done better work than this.
I came back from vacation this morning, found out I was presenting this and Hancock wasn't, and it took me a while to sort through this, but I thought perhaps the colored maps would showing what was happening would.
Okay, well, I make a
Simplify
motion, Ron, that they will endorse.
Gary, can I just follow up with a question on
Sure.
your
Go
question?
ahead, Sarah.
Laura.
Laura, sorry.
Thank you, Ron. Just about the setback between the new property line and the driveway. Is there a setback? And can you just talk about where the new property line is proposed to go and whether it's right along the edge of the drive or provides a setback?
There's
The
no
new-
requirement for a setback, Laura, in our laws, only that the parking be 5 feet from the property line.
Well, the
That's
parking,
my-
but not the drive. Okay.
That's my understanding. That's correct.
They're not-
And if you look at this plan, it shows that the property line has been drawn as it comes in
Yeah.
to go along the driveway. You can see the dotted line this side of the driveway, and there's a dotted line covered by the blue a little bit, but it's right along there. And then it flares out as you come down here, and the parking is down in here and
Understood.
over at the garage.
Thank you for the clarification.
Any other comments from the board?
Yeah,
Otherwise,
Mary's got her hand up.
Mary?
Oh, thanks. I just had a couple very quick questions. So is part of the driveway on number 11 being taken out?
Frank, can you respond to that, please?
This is Frank Bradley. What specific, I'm assuming you're talking, we're not going to touch, you can't see my cursor. The initial common shared portion will fully be continued to be used, and macadam will stay intact. Whereas that little irregular section of uncolored, I will probably put that on the owners of either 9 or 11 or both to remove any macadam the new owners don't want. The new owners are going to have to cut, if they want to use where it is now the current back entrance to the house, they're going to have to swing an angle sooner to move larger trucks into the back area. And so there will be some macadam removal all over that area. And it's up, we're just going to be very transparent with the new owners, and just let, with our brokers, and let them know that it can be worked out any way they like. I assume they'll at least want number 11 to remove that first boot-shaped area of the driveway that feeds number 9.
Ron?
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm still asking my questions.
Okay, Mary?
And then I think it's not a question, it's a comment, because I didn't receive that grid either with the transfer of properties, which would be very helpful. So it's just a process question. Why didn't we get part of the application?
I can answer that. As I said before, I came back from vacation today and just found out that I was going to be presenting this. I prepared that today and sent it to Susan, and I received a response from her that she had emailed it around to the planning board members. So you may not have seen it before tonight, but it was submitted earlier this afternoon. The whole 2-page memorandum and all of these plans.
And as the proposer, Frank Bradley, I complied with what was asked for by last Wednesday or Thursday, which was 10 copies in Mylar of the A&R plan, a Form A, and signatures, and I think that was it. Without a lot of descriptor.
I do believe all the planning board members have a copy of both the memorandum, the narrative, and the plans from an email this afternoon.
Ron?
Go ahead, Mr. Gilbert.
I'd like to suggest that we ask them to modify the plans, that we vote to make a motion that we vote to endorse this, but that we request that the plans be slightly modified and in a very specific manner, like labeling the buildings and who owns them and whether they're existing or not. And that table of lot areas, I didn't scrutinize it, but it would be a very good idea to put that on the plans. So somebody 22 years from now could pick it up and understand why we endorsed the plan, that's all.
If I could ask a question, Mr. Chairman, do you want that done before the Mylar is signed?
I'm suggesting that we vote to endorse the A&R, but on the requirement that you submit a revised drawing and that Ron be allowed to sign it after the meeting's over without any more meetings.
Okay, that's fine. I can go back to Jason Ellis at Hancock. And so it's the owner's names on the parcels and a confirmation. He can just put existing dwelling. Is that sufficient?
Well, he asked for the table of
And the
land.
table.
Oh, I'm sorry. And the table.
It would demystify things quite a bit and provide a record.
Right.
So when you say on the plan, Gary, you're talking about on the Mylar?
Yes. What's recorded at the Registry of Deeds, he's got plenty of room. It doesn't have to be a big table.
So this is the
I would-
table, this is the table that you want me to have Hancock put on it.
I think so.
Okay, that's
More
fine.
information is better. It's not going to hurt anything.
No, I agree. I think it should have been there in the first place.
So that's my motion, Ron. I move that we endorse the plan with the changes we just specified.
Ron, can I say whatever is written on the Mylar, that you also receive paper copies for the town clerk and the assessor and for the planning board office? So if you're going to receive a revised Mylar, could you please also have 3 paper copies with the revisions on them?
I will make sure that happens, yes.
Thank you.
I'll second Gary's motion.
And before on the motion, Helene, is there an A&R number that Gary wants to include in his motion?
823.
So Gary, you move to endorse A&R 823 with the changes you noted. Is that correct?
Yes.
And can I add one thing, Ron? That
Yes.
the chairman be authorized by the board to sign the Mylar on behalf of the planning board.
He already is, Chris, you all signed him a
Okay.
year ago, April, that because of the pandemic, he was authorized to be the one signatory on these plans.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and can you read that little box that's on the right-hand side at the corner down the bottom of the plan that says the plan, identify the plan as, and then put in the 823? I don't have it in front of me. See down there, it says plan of land, Manchester. Just read that little box. Gary, is this your motion, Gary?
Yes, I'm trying to find, you mean the
think it's a-
drawing with the drawing number and the layout?
Down the bottom, it says something like plan of land in Manchester by the Sea at a 9, I don't know this for sure because I don't have it in front of me, but this is what they usually say. 9 and 11 Eagle Head, prepared by Hancock, scale, whatever it is, dated whatever it is, revised whatever it is.
Okay, then I move we endorse the plan of land in Manchester by the Sea for 9 and 11 Eagle Head Road as prepared by Hancock Associates for Francis Bradley, dated 8/5/21,
And revised,
and it has not been revised, but it will be revised. We're requesting a revision
yeah, to be revised.
as A&R number 823. Does that cover it?
You got a scale and a date on it?
Scale is 1 to 30 feet, 1 inch equals 30 feet.
Scale is 1 inch equals 30 feet.
Okay, and who seconded it?
Sarah,
Sarah.
Second.
Right, and then the roll call vote, and then I will quietly slink away.
Okay, a roll call vote on the motion to accept A&R 823 with the modifications mentioned. Ms. Creighton,
yes.
Ms. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert,
Yes.
Mr. Olney,
Yes,
and Ms. Tenney.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Chris, before you slink away, Helene, do you want Mr. McCann to send the revisions to town hall or come directly? I mean, what's?
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to sign all those plans. So if it would not be too inconvenient for Mr. McCann or Mr. Bradley to deliver to your home,
Yeah, so
the
that would be great.
and the paper copies, and then you can sign them and give back the Mylar to whoever it is that you're gonna give it back to, so that he can take it to the Registry of Deeds. And you can take the paper copies to town hall. Was I talking too fast?
Nope, I got it. Would that be okay with you either, Mr. McCann or Mr. Bradley?
I'm
Uh,
happy to do it, Bob.
That's fine, yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll email you my address.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Night. Mary's
you,
got her
Elaine.
hand up. Ron, Mary's got her hand up.
Oh, they have to, before
Um,
they sign off, they have to transfer the zone back to you, Ron. Otherwise, with a meeting ends.
Yeah, Mr. McCann, can you unshare your screen?
I'm going to try to.
Okay.
How'd I do?
Great.
Bravo.
Thank you very much, folks. Nice to see you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay.
Okay.
hello. Okay, can I go now? Just ask.
Yes, Helene, you'll be missed.
Thank you. I'll miss you too.
Bye-bye, Lean.
Bye.
Okay, Mr. Gilbert has, well, we wanted to ask ask the Board of Selectmen to ask Town Council to draft a bylaw on the appointed board proposal that we passed several meetings ago. So it's a formality because anytime we want to spend money or the town's money on town council, we have to fill out a form to the Board of Selectmen. So I just wanted to make the planning board aware of that and make sure I have your concurrence that that's what we want to do.
I think that's fine. This is Sarah.
Okay. If there's no objections, I will go ahead and move that forward with you, Greg, and get the form, or Sue, help me fill out the form, and we'll move that forward, see what we get.
Ron, this is
Okay.
Mary. I have a question on
Yeah.
that.
Yes?
I guess I'm still not clear that, Mr. Gilbert brought it up to the planning board, the prior members as him wanting to proceed with this. I'm just not understanding how the planning board is getting involved in a
I'm
general
gonna have to
bylaw.
turn it off.
That's really not our purview.
Well, Mr. Gilbert, did you have any comment on that?
I'm not sure I understood the question. Why is the planning board getting involved in a general bylaw?
Yes, I thought that you had proposed a general bylaw change to the makeup of the planning board, and general bylaws go in front of the Board of Selectmen. So if the Board of Selectmen want to draft a general bylaw to bring to town meeting, that's my understanding.
We drafted language that we voted on for a general bylaw change. We're allowed to, just like a citizens group is to, we're allowed to suggest any bylaw changes to zoning or general bylaws. And at this point, it's not about asking town council to draft the law. It's about asking the town council to review the law. In the end, this is going to be an article proposed by the Board of Selectmen. But we have quite a bit of breadth here and relevance to propose laws, especially when they involve us or if we adjudicate them.
I'm still not clear on that. I've done a fair amount of digging, and I don't see precedent for us to draft a general bylaw. Again, if the Board of Selectmen want to take it up and propose it, that is within their purview.
So Ron, if I might.
Go ahead, Greg. I think they've asked us. Go ahead.
Right, so this originated as a request from the planning board. The selectmen reviewed that request and have asked now for the planning board to put a little more meat on the bones, if you will, and craft a more specific article that they could potentially put on for town meeting, on a town meeting warrant. So the selectmen are asking for some more detail, and that this planning board work with town council on that.
Ron, this is
Okay,
Christine.
go ahead, Christina.
So I guess I think we're missing a bunch of the details. that haven't been relayed as far as this agenda item has been. I listened to the Board of Selectmen retreat, and that's the last I heard that this was spoken of. And they basically said they wanted to punt it back to the planning board and see exactly what they had in mind. So I don't know if that actually means that we send it to town council. They wanted our opinion. When will this take effect? Who will be taken off the board? There's one of their suggestions was the entire board is disassembled and no one is allowed to run for office or be appointed to office within the next 5 years. How does the transition work? So I think there's a lot that was not communicated based on the agenda. And if you didn't listen to the Board of Selectmen retreat, I'm not sure why we're not being relayed that information. So the board did vote. I think the board has changed since then. I think it might be worthwhile to maybe rescind it and revote the current board. But at a minimum, if we are going to send this to town council, I would like the language that should be in the general bylaw be written and present before we actually change it.
Any other comments from the board?
Ron, I would just add, I spoke with Alan Wilson about this, and I think it's fair to say he concurred that town council should review what we wrote. He suggested maybe there may be a need to add some language about how the legislature would be involved in it. There may be, he thought it might be a good idea to have a clause in there about unappointing if they're going to appoint people. And apparently we already have language for that regarding the zoning board of appeals. So that's existing in our laws and pretty easy to use. But basically they should review this at this point because it's been written, I believe, in an articulate and thorough manner, and they should review it and we get the comments back. And as Greg said, the Board of Selectmen's wanting to see us do the same thing.
Ron, if I may.
Yeah,
That was
go
not what the
ahead.
directions at the Board of Selectmen were at all. The Board of Selectmen said, please send this back to the planning board for their input on how this is going to be unveiled. In my recollection of that meeting, town council was not mentioned at all. It was going back to the planning board for their input on how this would unroll. So I'm not sure why there's a miscommunication here, but I did listen to the Board of Selectmen, and I believe Becky's on board here. She could probably chime in, but that's what I heard. I mean, is there a correspondence from the Board of Selectmen in writing, Ron, that says otherwise?
I believe they were looking for more, something specific for them to rule on. That's the implication I got from Turner.
Excuse me, I didn't hear you.
I believe the selectmen were looking for some kind of language on the of the bylaw change. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, they
Greg,
were looking to
or-
the planning
That's,
board.
that's correct.
For
They're
that
looking for
language.
they're looking for the planning board to flesh out more details. What would be the criteria for appointing somebody? At one point, I think you had mentioned they would all have professional backgrounds. I think the board had some questions about whether that's, if every appointed member should have a professional background. They felt that there was some value in a citizen planner, if you will. And so they had some questions like that, looking for it to be fleshed out in a little more detail. And certainly the planning board could seek guidance from council to do that.
Ron, this is Mary. It sounds from hearing this conversation is that this needs to be an actual topic at a planning board meeting for us to discuss.
Ron, I have a comment. This is Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Two things. One is, this is a matter I know that got some prior debate. I don't have the minutes in front of me from that meeting, but personally, I know there was a lot of consideration of it, and I'm happy to have it go to the voters. That's the first thing. The second thing is, this is something that's been done by many towns, whether it's right for Manchester, I'm not sure, and the town board of selectmen and the town can decide, but it's been done by many towns. So I think it would make sense to have town council just use their wisdom on taking whatever was discussed prior to my joining the board anyway, and drafting a appropriate, simple bylaw based on how, because this has to move through either the legislature, I guess, and thus has to be done right. So getting town council to weigh in on it seems to me to make a lot of sense, and we have a lot of other things on our plate, and that would be seems to me to be the best way to go forward.
Ron, this is Mary again. Just one quick, just so anybody listening can understand. I just want people to know that out of 351 municipalities, only 35 have the BOS appointing planning boards. So it's not a widespread, and I think, you know, it's definitely fair to go to the voters, and obviously some conversation about, you know, why this would be a fit for Manchester.
Laura, you have your hand up.
Yeah, simply that I agree with Sarah's summary. I think that's a good next step, and we have a lot of other things to focus on.
I'd like to hear a motion on moving moving this forward to ask the Board of Selectmen for permission to have town council write a draft bylaw. Bylaw on this.
This is Sarah. I'll move that, and with the and give them the background of the board's prior minutes and deliberations, and if there was a draft put forward, that they should have that.
Is there a
No
second on
second.
them?
I'll
I'll
second.
second. I'll let Gary second it.
Okay, a roll call, Ms. Creighton,
Yes.
Ms. Delicio,
No.
Ms. Foley,
Um,
Mr. Gilbert,
Yes.
Mr. Only,
Yes,
Ms. Tenney,
Yes,
and chair votes yes. Okay, move that
John,
forward.
Could I add one more comment? I don't know why people are saying this was just a vague discussion or was never written. There's a very specific law that we drafted with specific sections and points. And it seems to me the selectmen may have not even read it. So I don't really understand that, but we have a specific law that was completely drafted. But there's no need to discuss it any further.
Okay, the next item is a parking study. Christina, do you have a scope and do you have what this is about?
I do. So the end goal would be to ask the board for permission to, I'll just start. So we've actually been talking about a parking study at least for 4 years at this point. And when we started talking about rezoning the LCD, one of the conversations was we need a parking study before we can really handle or get a handle on what the impact of our downtown would be with increasing housing and commercial development. So we've put it on our budgets. We've asked for grant money. It hasn't come through. And I actually had a meeting a few months ago at this point with Greg, and I've become frustrated with the lack of follow through with this parking study. So on the last go around, I think there was some confusion between the ZBA and the planning department and potential grant money that we were asking for. And the ZBA was hesitant to give any money in planning or planning department because we were asking for a lot. So Greg suggested that we have a conversation about creating our own budget item, and asking for this at town meeting in the spring. So I wanted to start the budget conversation. I don't have a scope. We have a scope that's already been written for several grants that we've applied for. I don't think I need to rewrite a scope. What I did want to pursue was the difference between, I think Essex just finished a parking study, Hamilton just finished a parking study, who they used, did they use MAPC, and start gathering some information with permission of the board and report back to that. in 2 weeks so we could discuss it and further. That is my agenda item.
So you say there are several scopes. Which scope are we talking about?
I don't know if that's actually necessarily terribly important to like pin down at this
Well,
point,
are
but
we studying the whole town? Are we studying the downtown? Are we studying the LCD? What's the scope?
I think every scope run that we've talked about has involved the downtown and then a few
Well, which one are you
additional.
proposing?
I'm looking right now at this scope and there's actually no date on it, which was written by Sue Brown. And it has a map. It's on the website, dated December 19th. The scope of this seems to be, sufficient. I mean, after the scope of the parking study, if they say that we should study some additional areas, that's fine. But we can stick with the latest downtown parking study that was proposed. I'm not really looking to rewrite parking study scopes. So the last study that was submitted by the town planner with a map dated December 19th. It's all available on the website under grants. It's fine with me.
Ron?
Go ahead, Sarah.
It would be great to maybe take this up as we get closer to budget time. And I would like to see the scope of the study. That would be really helpful. So maybe we can put it in our packets for next time or link to it so that we can review that. I also think that parking has been a subject of the problem. I guess, let me start again. If parking has been a subject of the downtown improvement committee's work or the Complete Streets effort, we should probably fold that in. And then, but I do think it would be good to have a clear scope of work and what the outcomes are, particularly outcomes that are related to the planning board. So I don't have an opinion about what those should be right now, but Christine, you thought a lot about it. I think it'd be good if you kind of put that together so we could, those of us who know can see what the scope is, what the purpose is, and what the outcomes would be, and then we can decide whether it's a priority. I also wanted to comment on Christine's idea or Greg's idea of us having our own budget. If that's the case, then we should think a little bit about what are the items, parking study or other things that should be in the budget as we approach budget season, which seems like a long way off, but is coming up quickly, I'm sure.
So I guess at this point, I really was just looking for a bit of permission to just gather research to present in further detail to the board with surrounding towns on Cape Ann, just to gather and give the board some more information in a few weeks. And Sarah, with a little bit of background, there was a parking study, but at this point, the parking study was done by the police department probably almost 10 years ago. And right before maybe COVID hit, that one person that was involved with that parking study did come and speak to the planning board. So we have gathered a lot of the information. We're just trying to maybe even find some solutions to, creative solutions. All of these parking studies are trying to incorporate the high school or other parking lots that we can use a little more efficiently or dual purposely.
Any comments from the board?
Ron, I've got something to say about this too. I think having Christina go out and look at what other towns have done is a good idea. I certainly have my permission to do it. I think this should be done in coordination with the Downtown Improvement Program Committee, which is looking at these very same issues. I think a coordinated effort would be a good idea as long as we can set a pretty good boundary as to what we're talking about, so we don't get carried away with worrying about singing beach parking, for example. But I think the merchants in the downtown, this whole issue with the restaurants, taking over some parking spaces, these are things I think a good study could help help come up with a good plan that would, and furthermore, I think that would be really good to have the outcomes be specific ideas for how to regulate parking better. Having merchants park their own cars not in the downtown where the customers are parking, and trying to share parking spaces like in back at town hall for different events. I think that kind of a thing could be very useful.
Any other comments from the board? Laura?
Yes, if parking study is a priority for the board now, then I would say putting it in the context of complete streets and mobility for pedestrians, accessibility, biking should all be part of the conversation.
Mary?
Thanks, Ron. I agree. We've needed a parking study at least the whole time I've been on the board, and it's just never come to fruition. So if we can kind of grab this, make it an opportunity, and incorporate all that we need to look at. I mean, we have, like Chris mentioned, the restaurants even debating over one parking spot, whether to have tables or not. It's crucial in the downtown area and other outlying areas. And I think now is the time to do it. And we do have a planning board budget, and we should budget the items that to set priorities. So I'm all for it.
Sue, were there grant monies available for parking studies in addition to asking the town for money?
That's a great question, Ron. We've asked for 3 years. We haven't gotten it through MAPC technical assistance or other grants that we've asked for. But we did have it in the budget last year, and it was not granted as well. So we just haven't been successful yet. But I think if there's I think if we should continue to ask for it, because I also think it's important for a number of reasons, both for the downtown tenants to think about the multifamily housing that needs to be by right in the coming years, sooner rather than later, and other things. So I concur that it should be requested in the budget. I'm happy to help in any way I can.
Thanks, Sue. Mary, you have your hand up. Was that from a previous?
Oh, sorry, that was from before.
Okay, Christina, you'll move forward with that. Get us some information. Thank you. The recodification roadmap. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty, and I'll turn it over to Sarah and Chris to give us an update on progress and where we stand and the directions we're heading on this.
Okay, can I share the screen, Ron?
Yeah, let me give you.
Oops. So.
Sorry.
That's okay. So just by way of, we've been talking for a while about how do we advance some simple things at the November town meeting. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
I'm going to keep it not in slideshow mode, just so I can make changes if we want to make notes on this. At the last meeting, we agreed that Ron and I would meet with Alan Wilson about the November 15th town meeting. So we did. Sue was there as well. And his advice was he wants to try to keep the meeting, and he and the Board of Selectmen want to keep the meeting short as possible. And so he urged us to focus on simple changes, which I think is what we've been talking around about, with a focus on renumbering. He reminded us that there are 2 citizens articles on the warrant for zoning changes already. And he did encourage us to try to do the rest, like all of it, in April, saying we could do a second night of town meeting that was devoted to zoning changes I'm sure that will get a big crowd, but anyway. So we sort of talked about it as a two-part project. The other thing, following the meeting, I think Greg and Ron came up with this draft schedule. So this is where we get, we're really getting in crunch time here, because the next thing we have to do is know what we're doing so we can advertise for a public hearing and set that public hearing and finalize the warrant articles at our next meeting, or finalize them for a public hearing. Then meet with the Board of Selectmen, then have a public hearing mid-October, finalizing the warrant articles following the public hearing, and then a town meeting in November 15th. Greg or Ron, anything you want to add to that schedule, or any new changes on that?
I just wanted to ask Greg, did I get it right? Or I kind of took the dates and came up with that.
Yeah, no, basically, those dates are accurate, with the caveat that there is some interest in pursuing the potential of holding it outdoors again in November. And that would be potentially under tents with some heaters. So that it may change it to a Saturday meeting, November 13th. But we're still pursuing different options and seeing how much room we can have at either of the schools, and whether, do we use a couple of rooms? Is that better than a tent, or is a tent better? Trying to weigh the different options.
Okay, well, I'm sure renumbering zoning will bring lots of people out, so very exciting. So Chris and I put together a memo that directed you to the 4 proposed articles that were, and those are draft at this point, but I'll walk us through them in a summary fashion, and maybe we can just take them one at a time. So there are 4. The one is to renumber articles. The second is to add, replace sections 1 through 4. The third is to replace the administrative section. And the fourth is to delete things that we no longer need in the bylaws. So let's start with the first one, which I'm starting with them in no particular order. Well, so first one is to renumber the sections. So Chris and I came up with what it would look like, delete this section, renumber that section. And the benefit of that, as we've talked about before, is the only debatable things if the article for the warrant is only to renumber. The only thing that is debatable is whether or not we renumber it, section 7 to section whatever. The content of those sections is not debatable, so that means we can't discuss setbacks or some portion of that. We can debate it, but we can't. It can't be voted except for the renumbering. So the next step for that draft article is to be very careful to tediously go through and make sure we've done it right. And I'm sure that right now the draft is not quite right. So what the draft new table of contents would look like, the red is proposed in the next article that I'm going to talk about, but the new sections 5 through 11 are renumbered and redirected from the existing numbers, 7 through 8 or 9 or something. And so that's what the renumbering article attempts to do. So I'll stop there to see if there's any comments or whether that direction seems like the right thing. So Ron, looks like you have a couple hands up.
Yes, start with Christina.
So Sarah, if you just went back one slide, I think you said to make sure we get it right. Can we talk about as a board, what exactly does that mean? Are we truly unnumbering or renumbering? Are we going back to the original? We're minor wording changes? What exactly I think we need to agree on what that means.
So yeah, that's a good point. This is to renumbering. So if the new, and I'm using draft 8 of the Bobrowski draft, and so Chris and I've been using. So
Mhm.
if section, I could open that draft article, but if section 5 is to become section 6, we want to make sure that that's where we want it in the table of contents. I'm talking about renumbering, reordering. This article would simply reorder our zoning so that the end result would be the table of contents that was put forth by that draft 8, with the exception that we've decided, I think we talked about this 2 meetings ago, to keep definitions as section 2, because it means you have to renumber a lot fewer things. Currently, section 2 is definitions. So that means that some portions of 5 through 11 do not need to be renumbered, which mean by keeping definitions as section 2. The draft 8 has definitions at the end. So this part about renumbering is to try to end up with things in this order, the main sections. Changing in this article, you would change a no content.
Under the presumption that there has been significant content change within draft 8 though.
Right, so in April, we would have to go back and say section 5.3 or whatever it is of dimensional requirements, change this to that. And then we'd have to, it would be a very another tedious process to go through, but at least the danger of not doing it all at once is that what happens if something fails, you can't figure out what to revert to.
No, I'm with you, Sarah. I just think that there's significant changes that maybe that may draw attention that are in draft 8 that may raise flags.
Absolutely. We're not going to get
Okay.
100% of draft 8.
Okay. So I
Absolutely.
just, okay.
No,
Yeah, can I jump in here?
absolutely.
So Christina, we're not changing any language within each of those sections. The language is exactly the same. The titles are exactly the same. It's just the numbers are different. So.
Okay, from draft 8 or from our zoning bylaw dated 2018? That's where I'm trying to gain
So
clarity.
we're taking 2018 zoning regulation table of contents and reorganizing it so it makes more sense.
Perfect.
because
Okay,
these-
thank you.
That's all we're doing.
You got me
Good.
confused when you said draft 8. That's all.
Right.
Okay.
Mary?
I think I have the same confusion. So are we gonna have a matrix that says, because our current bylaws have sections 1 through 7. So are we gonna have a matrix that says our section 1 is now what? Like, are we mapping what the changes are? I just want to make sure we're going from zoning bylaws 2018 and renumbering. We're not.
That's all we're doing. That is all we're doing with this warrant.
Okay, so I think the mention of draft 8 confused me as well. And just
Well, the
this
numbering of that.
content slide that says new but no change, 1 through 4. I mean, there's been drastic changes in sections 1 through 4, so I'm not clear what that means.
So that's the next article. I'll get to
That's-
that.
Okay, so to be clear, then we'll have a matrix of section 1 through 7 and how it's going to be renumbered.
So that's a separate, we do need to have a strategy to explain this. We first have to be very clear about what we're doing. One of the things I think I pointed you to was, just so everybody's clear, we've put everything in the folder called zoning bylaw changes. And then there are 2 subfolders. One's articles for town meeting and the other one is something like support for articles for town meeting. So we will, you're right, we need to have information for the public. It needs to be really clear. And it's my opinion that we can say, we're renumbering, and in this first article, we can say, we're renumbering things and changing no content on that one. That's my opinion. Other people may have a different opinion. So there's two issues. One is what is the article for the warrant? And the other is how do we communicate to the public about it? So we shouldn't mix the two because they're different. One is a public relations communications tool and the other is the actual, what are we going to do? Does that make
And
sense?
Kind of. And if I may ask, are we just renumbering the high level sections or are we renumbering section 1.1, 1.2, you know?
Yep.
how do we
Good
keep this
question.
going?
Good question. We have to, so section, let's say 5 point, I don't have it in front of me, would become 5.1 would become whatever, 7.1 and the subsequent sections. Alan thought that we did not need to list each one individually, but that we could specify, which is why we need to get a draft so that as with any article, it goes to town council, right? And any references there too. So sometimes there's a reference in one section to another section. So Alan felt that we could create a sort of a umbrella language that reflected the reordering without the tedium of every single subsection being called out. But I suppose we could do that if we absolutely had to. That strikes me as. But anyway, but yes, we are renumbering the subsections as well through some sort of, I don't know how to call it, an umbrella language, you know. So
Without adding or removing anything. So we're not going to renumber for a proposed new change that we're not going to bring to fall town meeting.
That's right. That's correct.
that's correct. The goal is to get to this table of contents. So let's talk about the next, if you don't mind, is Ron, I'll move to the next
Go
one.
ahead.
Which is different. It replaces sections 1 through 4 with the sections 1 through 3 plus the definitions from draft 8. And I took them in that article that I proposed in their entirety from draft 8. So you are correct that there are some changes, but with the exception of the use table, which we'll talk about in a minute, they appear to be relatively non-material. So it gets us the benefit of the new changed sections, now 1 through 4. So 1 through 8 from draft 8 and the definitions as section 2. So let me walk through the rest of the articles so that we're clear. The next one is an administration, which adds simply the draft 8 section 11 administration and puts it as section 12 because we kept the definitions, sorry, in 2. And deleting the sections that are relevant and have been replaced, right? It doesn't make sense to have 2 administrative sections. So that article would simply say, create a new section 12, administration, and the text in full, and delete sections, whatever, and whatever, that section, administration section replaces. So those 2, and so there is some new content there, but again, it's not material, it streamlines things, both. So doing 1 through 4 and 12 administration seems like it gets us a little ways toward the goal of tidying things up and not changing things materially. The last proposed article is Sue gave me a list of gave us the list of things that should be either deleted or moved. For the purpose of these slides, I've broken them out from that list into a couple of things. And Mary, I saw that you made a comment in the document, so that's great. We can talk about that. So these are the ones that I believe Mark Bobrowski said should be deleted because they were either obsolete or illegal. So the next one is 3 sections that were recommended to move to the general bylaws. we should decide if we're actually gonna do this or if we're gonna just wait to April. And then the last one on that list is an other, which should be moved to the rules and regulations. Again, do we try to wait till April on that, or do we get it done in the next short order? So if on this one, so deleted sections seems to me to be, and to Alan, we talked to him about this, that if we can say these sections should be deleted, and the rationale is we walk through basically this rationale that's listed here. So those, so that's the proposal in terms of strategy. So maybe, and then I think we have some decisions that we need to make around, particularly around the use table. And then I would ask that everybody go and read the definitions, because there are some new definitions that came from Mark that we have kept in. And if there's anything controversial there, I don't think we need to talk about that tonight. But the use table, and what I'm going to propose, Chris, a little different than what you and I talked about, if it's okay, is I thought maybe we'd work through these and figure out which ones we should come back to on the 27th to finalize. I believe there's a couple of things like, seems to me, things like educate, a more appropriate use of the word educational uses is not, it's not controversial. Same with churches. It's previously said churches, and our new version says use of land for religious purposes. So we could walk through this. This is the use table for people who have not been paying attention to this fascinating topic. The idea is to take the section on uses and make it into a table so it's readable, and delete the vast narrative that is there today. Chris, do you want to talk through this, or maybe and figure out which ones are easy for us to agree on, and then we can, if people want to think about others.
Yeah, we can do that. Go ahead, Ron, I'm sorry.
Do we have a map, Sue, of RD1 and RD2?
We have, the existing map shows them, but doesn't label them. So I would suggest develop a new.
And is there any change between RD1 and RD2 to have them in separate columns?
Yeah.
On the use table, there is?
They have different allowed uses, which is why this change was suggested.
Okay, I thought we had a use table with them broken out as two separates.
We've never had a use table.
No, but I mean in a preliminary one.
I think that's what this is.
It doesn't have
maybe
RD1 and 2.
It says one RD.
There's only one RD.
Yeah, there should be RD1, RD2.
Oh,
Ron, we did have prior use tables that had RD1 and RD2, and I think it's the 2004 Horsley-Witten map does not break out the districts D1 and D2, so we would need a new map.
We would need that map. Yeah, can we get going on that? I mean, we should get that going.
Maybe Chris, hopefully I have more or less the right version here. Yikes.
yeah, I think you have an older version of the use
Version?
map, Sarah. Sorry.
Sorry. So many versions floating around. Let me look for the right one for a second. If we want to, I'll just unshare my screen for a second while I find that. Maybe I'm gonna go to.
Ron, this is Christine.
Go ahead.
So can you just touch base quickly on what it would take to get some maps, and how much money? Do we have the money, time frame?
I don't think
Sue's breaking up.
it'll be too difficult to do, Christina, because we have the existing maps. The only thing we're changing is the RD1, RD2, and one of them is 100 feet away from certain streets. And so I guess we could just do it on a scale.
Well, no, I would suggest that we have done very well. I think the existing one is pretty a lot of people, so it's going to be in the range of $2,000. Sorry, and that's. I do think it's important to get one that's very clear and very. And I was simply waiting for, to find that we were going to do this before they expend the money. So I would get back to you.
It's important to have the map, and I think it's important to try to get the use table in this session, in my opinion.
Well, I don't think the districts are going to change. The uses may, but I don't think the map is actually going to say per se. I mean, we can always change the use table, correct? I mean, we need the maps is what I'm thinking.
The district not change are they're labeled differently. So just to be I think it's a good idea, an updated map.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm just saying, I don't think we need to wait until this bylaws change. The districts are still the districts. We can reflect the changes of the uses.
Right, we should get going
the
on that
bylaw.
map as soon as possible, if we can get it printed up. I agree.
Can we? Do we need that? I mean, do we? That's my question.
It's
I
been
said,
asked.
go
I
out to
agree.
bid.
One of our hearings, that question came up at one of our public hearings by the citizens, so I think it's important to have that map.
Yeah, it doesn't need to go out to bid, but we'll just get.
Yeah.
I would just comment that it is referenced in section 3.2 and it references the 2004 map. So we either need the use table in sync with the map or, vice versa. So we can't be out of sync with that.
Well, let's just make a new map. Let's just do it.
That seems very reasonable to me.
I agree.
I'm not finding that use table. I don't know why the other one, but I still think we can use the one that I have for at least tonight. Hold on, I would bring it up. So the question, let's just go through a few of these to see if there's if these changes, obviously, I don't know what this up to 4 borders. That's obviously accessory dwelling unit, right?
No, it's not. It's
No.
not accessory.
It's what?
It's not accessory dwelling units.
That's
Anybody can have borders in their house.
Okay, sorry. So these changes are it seems to me that these are clarifying language changes. Does anybody have, let's just look at 1 through 7. Am I correct that these are clarifying changes?
You're talking about the blue, I take it.
Yes.
What do you mean by clarifying changes?
We've never had this table.
Right. So the current language says that that you can have a 2-family dwelling in the RD with so the code here is BA, allowed by special permit from a Board of Appeals. And so the addition is in a single building.
So first I would, if I may, I would just, couple things to point out that it is different with RD1 and RD2. So you need the 2 columns.
Right, we need the 2 columns. Yeah, I don't know why.
And then just if we're going to start this and going forward, it says ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals, up at 4.1.2. If we can just keep the grid consistent, either use ZBA in the grid or change up above to
Yep.
BA. But yeah, so we definitely need the 2 columns for RD1 and RD2. Because one's by right and one's by permit.
Yep. So the question is, this language here, it seems to me that 1 through 7, these are clarifying changes, and they don't change the meaning. Might anybody disagree with 1 through 7?
Question. Does a
Okay.
single building have a building code meaning to it? For instance, a party wall or something like that, or is there going to be any question about the definition of a single building?
Laura, I don't think that'll be much of an issue. We do have a lot of new definitions to try to clarify stuff like that. I don't think you're proposing we vote on the new definitions, because our definition section right now, I think, has 11.
I'm certainly not, yeah, I'm just saying that if there's anything that's confusing about what the definition of a single building is, like for a 2-family dwelling, that we not,
Make
you
it
know,
more,
muddy the water here.
so maybe we should look and see if definition, maybe we need a definition of a single building.
I don't think so, but that's not, there's things that people could get confused over, but some things I kind of doubt it. But
We
are we
could say-
mentioning things
You
that
could say
don't,
single, you could say a single structure instead of building. Maybe that makes a
Still,
difference.
it's still,
is no
That's one
different?
of the things that somebody like Mark Bobrowski, we could ask, right?
I
Good
think you
idea.
should ask them to review this as part of our review.
Absolutely.
Do we, are we referring to any uses that we haven't created yet? Because this may need to be pared down a little thinner if any of it's referring to new stuff.
There is one, there's.
I agree.
Yeah, there.
Senior housing.
Senior housing is.
That's what I thought. I very much support getting these tables in, and the parking one too, because that's the norm everybody uses, and it's so much easier removing the verbiage and having a table.
So it seems to me that senior housing should wait until because it's we have to decide which, it's more than a minor
You just
change.
remove it until we vote on creating that land use.
Yeah,
That's right. So we wait till April.
You have to remove it.
So we could amend the table.
Right. In April, we do that.
We can amend it. And
Right.
then any thought to making the table 11 by 17 without all these abbreviations?
Yeah, we're going to work on its format for sure.
Format a little better, yeah.
And the other version has slightly better format, but yep. Long-term care facility, was this something, the current says sanitarium, nursing, rest home or convalescence home, is that correct?
so these are all, this and the use of structures and land for religious purposes. This is all reflecting state law, which is why Bobrowski wanted to change them. Just to bring it into conformance with what the state defines.
So in actuality, these are making so long-term care facility, use of structures for religious purposes and use of land for educational purposes and so forth, are simply making those compliant with state law.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So that seems reasonable. Does anybody have any concerns about those?
No, that's all just language of the Dover Amendment.
Okay. How about 3 through 9 here? Is that the same category, same type of
Same
thing?
stuff, yep.
Anybody have
So
any?
just on the general municipal uses, there's a question mark. We need to fill that in with a yes or no.
Yep. Thank you. How about, again, are these all making this comply with the yellow language, making that compliant? Is that?
I believe
we
so,
just-
yes.
Could we just go back up because we have, in uses, we have number 8, which is blank.
Which is what? Oh, blanks. Yeah, so let's, was there a proposal for that, or is that something we need to decide?
Well, I think that others might have a clearer memory, but I mean, obviously this relates to things like, obviously the MAC and county club. And I mean, we have outdoor recreational facilities. So I don't know if it stays within the districts that it's already in.
Weren't these filled out, Sue, at one time in some version?
Maybe. Okay, I can check that to start with. We'll come back to this.
Yeah, I don't think this line was ever filled out.
I don't believe this is a new, I believe this was mimicking allowed now.
I'm gonna just put that one to follow up. It doesn't seem like it's super controversial. Okay. Thank you. And then this is the agricultural.
Sarah, do you have 2 number 9 cemetery and essential
Yeah.
services?
All of these things, that kind of stuff we'll have to clean up. Thank you.
Okay.
We may want to, yeah, number them somehow that, anyway. So this is an example here, greenhouses and nurseries used on parcels less than 5 acres or 2 qualified acres. This section, I think we probably, is just saying where it's coming from. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, I think so, yes.
Okay, so those will all go away.
I
Yeah,
think, can I make a suggestion? That's very helpful if you had another column in front of these that gave the section number, unless it repeats in other places when it's not helpful, but
Well, I think the purpose is actually to take the narrative out and have the narrative only be the table. So right now it's this giant paragraph set of long.
right.
Where you
Yeah,
have to like,
it was just a formatting suggestion, and you certainly take it or leave it, but like 412, if that was a separate column that went in front of the narrative and it went first column 4.1.2,
Yeah.
column B for properties under 5 acres, etc. Only if it's helpful to organize.
I think
Even
that
if it's just here to explain to the public and for a reference for ourselves, and then it's eliminated, I think it is helpful.
perhaps there's a column that says former 4.1.2.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
Just
Good clarification.
I do also think under agricultural, some of the acreage requirements were changed, so those have to be highlighted as changes.
Okay.
good point.
Can I ask Sarah, where are we going with this? It's 8:20. I mean, as a group, are we going to group think through this, or are we going to come back to it the next meeting?
Well, if we can just finish this table, that would be really helpful because then we can get it nearer to near final, because we actually could put it up on the website, because this is what people can use their land for, right? So then it's a pretty easy thing for people to see. So I would like to just, if we don't mind, kind of walk through this, or at least figure out where we are with this. And then the only other issue really is those deleted items, which I think we could take up next time. So
We're almost done with this anyway.
So that needs to be called out. Okay, commercial, adult entertainment. I think we have those uses. They're specified in.
Only in the limited commercial.
Only, that's right, that's correct.
It's the only place. The rest are ends.
Okay.
Thought this was filled out.
Yeah, it may be. I'm sorry. I'm apologize. I don't have the. Chris, I think you and I crossed paths on which version, but we can
Could be.
come back to you on this. So they are filled out. We'll just get those filled out. Any yeah, we'll fill.
So with the commercial, I would just clarify that we are doing this at a point in time. So obviously this is not going to include any LCD items we're discussing. This is just a snapshot in time.
This is today, with any small exceptions, like we identified a couple of them for agricultural, for example. Correct. This is not adding new uses to the LCD or anything like that. Okay. All right. So why don't we drive-in or drive-through facility? Was that a new use?
I believe that was.
Okay. So in that case, we would wait till April before we.
Yeah,
Okay.
If you're down to accessory, the planning board doesn't do the swimming pools, but that would be ZBA. And then that, yeah, that's currently,
Still that's still, oh, I see. It should be ZBA, not the planning board. Got it.
right.
Yeah, BAs.
Got it. And then accessory dwelling units, we'll double check to make sure that this doesn't, because we're not going to take that up in any changes. So we're going to make sure that this is, everything needs to get checked against the current zoning. So. I think that, oh. And then the parking area. Okay, I think we have enough to try to make this into the next level, but hopefully now you can see where we're going with this. And that before the next meeting, we will have something that is near final for us to advance as part of the sections 1 through 4 change. Does that make sense, people?
Sarah, I think you do your best shot at it. You've heard the nature of people's comments. You go
Yep.
through it carefully, but I think you all should have Mark Bobrowski there'll be a number of things he'll pick up on. If we're referring to a land use that hasn't been defined yet, he'll know about that, et cetera, et cetera. So before you come back, let's get it closer to being able to have a final.
Absolutely. The other thing is we need to have Alan weigh in on whether or not this is within the scope of what he thinks we can get done. And then I'd like to suggest, in the interest of time, that I can put this list. I can break out what it's called the article of deleted sections into these groupings that I've done here for the PowerPoint, and that we make a decision on these next time. If we want to move these to the general bylaws, we need a draft. We need somebody to draft these things. I don't have time to do it.
I don't think we want to do this meeting.
Yeah,
I think we want to put this off to April. I don't know if anyone disagrees with that, but I think that it's not going to be a good. He's not
Yeah,
going to want.
that's my recommendation, but I didn't want to be the one to make the decision. People agree.
I would agree with that because also there were changes that were proposed for the stormwater management and obviously the driveway curb cut. So you wouldn't want to move it without the changes.
Sounds good to me. How about anybody? Chris, what do you think? And anybody disagree with that?
No, I think it should wait till spring.
Okay. So I'll remove that from this. And same with this, whatever this is. We wait on this one too.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know. Well, let's get clarity on this. It's just on the list.
Yeah, I think that's gonna wait.
Okay, great. So I'm not sure we need to vote anything. I guess I would like to just have a sense of the board. I mean, it's a lot of work to put this together, that this is the right course of action. 4 articles. I'll stop sharing for a second. 4 articles with this general scope, and that we advertise, because the next step is to advertise this. Just to go back to that, to advertise that scope before our next meeting. So we could, I'm not sure exactly how that happens, Ron, but I think we could probably get an advertisement draft by the end of this week and send it out to people by email for any comments.
Yeah, and I think that's a good plan. And I also think what we advertise and what we put on the website is a draft. And I think Greg, I don't know if he's still here, but said that we can make changes to what we advertise. We can make some, it's a draft warrant article.
Right.
So.
But we do need to, so the work this week really is to get these much tighter, particularly the renumbering one. And I have a pretty clear sense in my head how we do that, but it's not trivial. The others are, I think, a little clearer.
Sarah, since Mark Bobrowski, I believe, owns the Word document, he can renumber things with the click of a cursor. Because part of this requires him renumbering the current draft new bylaw that we're working from. So we'll need to have him turn something around to us. Do we have any idea how quickly he can turn something around? We also want him to review the table and maybe other things to see what
We have the Word document, and renumbering it so that we have section 2 as definitions is a secretarial function that some night I can just do. Then the second piece is to change the result of the renumbering article. This one. And I think we also have to own that. I worry that we're not trying to renumber, we're not trying to get draft 8 to the town meeting. We're trying to renumber the 2018 zoning changes, which we have in a Word document. So I don't think we need Mark to do that. And I worry that he wants a lot of these other changes, which we're going to have to put off till April to happen. So I think we can do it. And I agree with you that he needs to weigh in to make sure we're not doing something foolish with this, but that we don't need him to do the secretarial stuff. What do you think?
Renumbering's done, isn't it?
Well, not quite. Yeah, but it has to be done in the 2018 version. That's what,
Okay.
you know, we came up with an article that I can probably find it for people who are.
I mean, with a simple matrix, you know, like in Excel, you know, 4.1 went to 12.2, you know.
Yeah,
like that.
that's how you communicate it, but it's not that simple in terms of an art. You have to.
I was going to say the track changes are probably the easiest way if people really wanted to go in and look at them, right? So Sarah, thank you very much for this. If you need a second set of eyes, help editing and matching and to make sure they're there, just send me a section. I'd be happy to take a chunk and review it. So thank you.
That'd be great.
Great. I gonna say what I said last time too, which is we'll probably, this stuff, you know, there's a lot of work. So you know, on the Friday before the meeting of the 27th, we'll try to get as much to you as we can then. And that's when that one's gonna have to be really carefully reviewed. So you're gonna need to allow some time before or after the parade to review the zoning change articles. Because it's a lot. So
Yes, and this is Mary. I'm happy to look at anything or do anything as well. And I also don't want to lose sight that there have been changes to sections 1 through 4, not just the use table. So we're going to need to highlight those.
Yeah, we can do track changes of each of those sections. So you can see what exactly is changing.
Yeah.
And I think we have Ann and Becky on, who has access to the zone, I believe. So we will, I'm going to just share my screen again. So it's in the zoning, can you see it? It's in the zoning bylaw recodification and update, and then there's articles for November town meeting. So everybody sees how we're organizing these, and you can leave comments in these documents. At least planning board members can have the others, but feel free to add. So the renumbering one, just so people know what it looks like, is literally to renumber. This is what it looks like. It's tedious, but hopefully the outcome will be a new table of contents. So
I'm sorry, I just can't see that on my screen right now. Is the renumbered document in SharePoint at this point?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. Yes or no?
Have not taken zone. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. We have not taken the entirety of zoning 2018 and run these renumbering changes yet. That's the next
We're
step.
pretty close. I think we could, if it's not on there, we can certainly put one on.
Yeah, we're getting close, but
Okay.
so that's where it is, and we can send you the hyperlink to this, which is a best practice for using SharePoint, is to send, so there's not lots of versions of things floating around. If somebody makes a mistake in SharePoint, it does have version control, so let me know and we can fix it. So we don't have, the nice thing is we can work on things concurrently. You can add comments that we can see. So that's, and I believe, Sue, we gave everybody privileges to be able to, or at least, I hope, I don't know, at least Chris and I have privileges to edit those documents. So you can send us email. I'm checking my email regularly, and it's, hopefully that's clear.
So this is Mary, I have one more question. We actually, through this whole process, do not have a new parking table. What are we gonna do with that?
We should create one.
Okay.
Working table of contents, you mean, or working
No, a parking
No,
table
a
with dimensions, how
parking
many
table.
table?
parking?
That's 4.2 and it's always been blank, so.
Can you do that, Mary?
Is that just going off strictly our current bylaw, correct?
Correct.
I'll do that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So thank you, Sarah and Chris, for a tremendous amount of work, and thanks for board members volunteering to help. The issue we have now is this has got to be, we will have these articles before our next meeting, correct? For advertisement, because that's the 24th. We're not meeting till the 27th. So we won't be, unless we meet again before that, we will need to have the team there produce some draft articles.
Greg, do we need the articles before we get the advertisement? Do we need the articles in a?
I think so. Greg, is Greg still on?
Yes, yes. So when you advertise, you need to be able to present, or, refer something to somebody. So yeah, you'll need something.
Okay,
But of
so
course
go ahead, Chris.
Well, they're not going to necessarily be final, but because the
No.
public hearing can result in changes to these things.
Correct. They're not
Correct.
final.
But you need something, you need a starting point.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Okay. Well, I think we can be there. We had talked about, or at least Gary and I don't know, Chris and I talked about it or not, about posting a working session for early next week. We'll try to figure out a day that at least that Chris and I can do it, so that if other members want to join us, we can be legal and a working session in person with, a computer and a screen where we're really finalizing the draft so that when we advertise it. So I think we talked about potentially Tuesday. I'm thinking maybe I have to kind of relook at my calendar. So if we will let you know when we do that and get it something posted maybe in the next day or so, to once at least Chris and I can do it. And I know Gary was interested too.
I'd be happy to join and help out.
Right. Okay.
Just to set expectations, I'm available pretty much every day after 3:30, but not before.
Okay.
I don't know what
Right.
you were thinking.
After 3:30 for sure, for me. I have one other zoning question or town meeting question, Ron. That's not in one of these articles. Do you mind if I raise that?
Go ahead.
It's a question for Greg. Will the warrant for the Hamilton land swap or the article for the town meeting be the same as was in the April town meeting? And do we need to have that as part of our public hearing? And that's the first question. What do you need from us for that? Because we messed up last time, right?
No, well, we voted that.
But you
Sarah.
Voted
but you
it, but we need a letter or we need some sort of, what
You can-
procedurally do you need from us?
Right, so it is basically, it's the same article that was passed over.
Mhm.
I believe you've acted on that in terms of a review and a recommendation. And so that recommendation needs to be presented at town meeting. You can either present that orally or you can give a written recommendation to Alan and he can present it.
Okay, because we voted that already on the 26th of July, so we're essentially, that's all we need, or we can present something in writing. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And then do we need to have hearings for the citizens warrant
Yes.
articles? And who does the advertising for those? Should that be part of the advertisement that we do on September 24th?
If you think you have the bandwidth in one meeting to do all that, yes.
Or can we do one advertisement for two?
We have the two citizens articles on the 25th of October. That's the two Cross and Denny Hall articles on the 2 Access Road and the no more than 50 units per year. That is scheduled on the 25th as a public hearing.
But do we do the advertising or you take, so you know how to?
Helene will, I think Helene takes care of that. Well, or
Gail now.
Gail will take care of that.
Right.
We just don't want to miss it. All right, great, thank you.
And you're planning a meeting for next Tuesday at what time?
I'm not sure yet. We'll have to
Well-
let you know.
You're gonna need, well, unfortunately, I'm not available in the evening on Tuesday. I have a school committee meeting. So I'm available on the 22nd.
Greg, can we do our own minutes for that? I think we can just do
Yes.
that.
Yeah,
Yes, you can.
I don't think we, yeah.
It's just a working session, so thanks, Gail.
As a subgroup, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so we're late, we're running really late. I'm thinking of maybe tabling Sue's planners report and the LCD unless people want to go into it right tonight. Any movement?
I'm okay
Or
with
Sue?
passing it over.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
Sorry,
thank you.
Sue. Sue, we can schedule you for our next meeting?
Yeah.
Or do you need direction today?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. The planning board organization. So this is for chair for this coming year, vice chair and secretary.
Ron, I think you're doing a great job. I'd like to nominate you as chair again.
I'll second that.
All right.
I'd like to nominate Sarah Creighton as vice chair, if she's willing to take on the ominous task, which is an ill-defined role. Undefined
I
role.
second it.
And
All right.
I'll nominate Mary to be the secretary, as she's done such a fine job. If she's willing.
Yeah, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm going to step down from that role.
That's another role.
Okay,
It
There's
doesn't have a
an
definition.
opening.
There's an opening.
Anyone?
I think we can exist with a vacant position, that seeing as there's no responsibilities attached to it anyhow.
There are actually responsibilities. They're signing the minutes before they're published.
Aha.
Christine,
So anybody want to sign the minutes?
Mary's so good at it, Mary. We just need to persuade her. She's very good. Come on, Mary.
She's done such a great job.
She did. She's very good at it. You're so good with the details there. Come on, Mary. I nominate you. We all nominate you, Mary.
Oh, well, boy, oh boy, oh boy. But yeah, I think I'm good.
What does that mean?
I think I'm good with somebody else taking the minutes.
I nominate Gary Gilbert to be signer.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, so let's just vote on the one slate, myself, Sarah, and Gary. Any for chair, vice chair, and secretary. Ms. Creighton,
Yes,
Ms. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert.
Yeah.
Mr. Only,
Yes.
Ms. Tenney.
Yes.
Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, the last thing tonight is the liaisons. There's a file. I see if I have it open. No, shoot, no, I don't. On the
I'll
there
look.
it is.
Oh, you found it?
Found it, and let me see. Let me know if this is happening. So,
It's not happening yet.
So maybe
it's
Sarah,
not-
you have to release.
hold on, I gotta.
Do I have
press
to
this
do
button.
something? No.
Oh, there you
No,
go.
coming.
There it is.
Okay, so, everybody is staying pat with what they have, at least current board members. And then Sarah and nominate herself for Public Works and School District and School Committee. Christina on Tobacco Woods. Okay, that's Laura on Coastal Stream, Laura on Conservation Commission, and Laura on Sustainability Committee.
And Ron, since this
and-
is my first meeting of the board, can you talk more about this role of the planning board
Yes.
liaison?
So at a 2019 meeting, the board at a retreat voted that we should have some more transparency and that we should contact other boards and find out if they're talking anything about land use. So it's not a heavy lift, but what the idea is to contact, and these contacts are kind of old. I don't know if they still exist, but there's contacts from 2019 on the spreadsheet to contact the board's chair. Let them introduce yourself, let them know that you're there. If there's any land use or planning board issues or anything of interest to the planning board, that they should either invite you to the meeting or give you information on what's going on so that you can report back to the board during the subcommittee and liaison report section at the end of our agenda. That's kind of the way we did that. I'm wondering if there's any other committees that were formed, maybe Greg or Sue in the town that we don't have on the list that may require a planning board member. I know there was a water resource committee that was talked about, and I think Christina was going to take that on. I don't know if there's any other ones that you know of that are new that the planning board may want to, and you don't have to answer tonight, but just let us know and we'll assign that person.
Was the Water Resources Committee actually formed?
I don't know.
No, so it'll be it's potentially a town meeting article to put it under the Conservation Commission, have it as a subcommittee of the Conservation Commission.
So Greg, I
Okay.
think I sent you an email about that. Could you clarify that? Because I thought I heard you say that there was a warrant article that was being proposed to disband it. And then is it also to put it under the Conservation Commission all in one?
It's to reconstitute it under the Conservation Commission.
Could you send that draft article to me?
I don't have it yet.
Okay, so
It's-
Laura, I would just like to say, let's just work together on that one. If it does go under the Conservation Commission, I am really interested in this Water Resource Committee, so can we just, it may not make sense if we're both doing Conservation Commission, if it's both under the same one, but I definitely want Water Resource Committee. Just depends on where it lands at this point.
I agree. Doesn't make sense for two people to be the point of contact for Concom. So let's see where it lands.
Cool. And Sarah, as far as like the last 5 years that I've been here, I don't really think we've had one for the school. I just think your talents might be used maybe somewhere else since the school's built at this point, especially. I don't remember us having a school liaison, but I mean, it doesn't hurt to have one, but I don't think there's been much action on that front. I mean, anyone else chime in, but
Ron, can I make a general comment or two about this? I would
Yeah.
reinforce what you said earlier, that the idea of the liaison is not to report back to the planning board all the things that were discussed at various meetings. It's really only to look at things that affect land use and maybe a recommendation that a bylaw needs to be created or changed. Because we're really the main place for that. The ZBA never, rarely or ever, never suggests that we change bylaws. So it's really a focused role. And the other thing is, I think this list is just too big. I think it doesn't make a lot of sense to have all these different liaisons. We have enough stuff to do, and probably very little attention will be paid by many of us on many of these topics. I think it should be rethought through, but not tonight. I'm just throwing that out there. I want to be
Well,
realistic.
it could come up at our retreat, because this is what spurred it, was at a retreat. I think,
Yeah.
Well,
I think that's where we came up with that idea.
So I'm making my thoughts public. We could talk about it later, obviously not tonight, but it's a little silly maybe.
I think this is just a comprehensive list of all the committees that are out there, just to make people aware that if they're new to the boards. I don't know if it's necessarily silly. It's just a comprehensive list. I don't know.
It is a comprehensive.
People on every committee is I agree with that point.
It's a comprehensive list, and I gotta tell you, it's a very light list. I haven't been contacted by anybody in the 3 years I've been on this thing. Nobody talked to me. So, I don't know, but at least.
Okay,
if
one
something comes up.
procedural question is just, if we don't know the first name that goes with the last name and how to contact these folks, just getting contact information would be
On
helpful.
the website, you can go to the website and
And all these different departments are in there.
or Sue can help you, I'm sure.
Okay,
I'm happy.
thank you.
Well, I guess I would just like to give a little anecdotal story. I am the liaison for the Bike and Ped. They're looking for funding for bike racks. We've talked about trying to make a cohesive, uniform, welcoming town with signs and lighting and colors. So I think that when people are spending money and grant money and trying to find money, I think open lines of communication and making sure that people know what they're doing is not necessarily silly. So I went to the Bike and Ped. I put them in Ron in the CPC direction. So I think certain boards are strategic, and I think we should stay involved. This list is too big, but I don't think we cut it down. I think it's just a nice list to show everyone what's out there.
Okay. Sounds good. Again, thank you, board members, for helping in this effort we have in the short period of time, especially Sarah and Chris. Back to the agenda, just these I've left the meeting times blank starting, I know we're having a public hearing, we're having a public hearing next meeting on 2 pretty light articles. One is an already passed harbor pier, and one is the Cornerstone Church, which comes under the Dover Amendment. But I'm starting that meeting at 6:30. Is 6:30 the preferred time going forward with the continuing with the meetings through the end of the year? I know Gary Russell had an issue with it, and he needed to start it at 6:30. But now he's no longer with us. I'm wondering if 6:30 is still the opportune time, or you want to go earlier or later, or just.
I would
any
rather
comment.
start earlier, Ron.
And I would have them start later. So, yeah, I can't do any earlier than 6:30 for sure. 7 would be better. I could eat a bite of dinner.
Okay, so why don't we go with 6:30 for now and keep them at 6:30. Thanks. We approve the minutes. Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Okay, motion to adjourn, it's been made and seconded. Roll call. My sheet in front of me, Ms. Foley,
Yes.
Ms. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Creighton,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert,
Yes.
Mr. Olney,
Yes.
Ms. Tenney.
Yes.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all. Thanks for your support. I appreciate it, and we'll get through this.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good
Night.
night.
Thank you.
Bye.